I can turn it on mine. I just, oh, there it goes. It's recording. All right, we're going to give it one more minute, and then we will get started. All right, it's 10:04, so we're going to go ahead and get started. We are recording this meeting and we'll be sharing it out, so always give that warning so you can watch the crazy stuff that you're going to say. Really, it's a reminder for me to watch the crazy stuff I'm going to say. We're glad to have you all here this morning, and want to just do a couple of introductions right out of the gate. First of all, I'm Josh Laney. I'm the director of the Alabama Office of Apprenticeship. And I have several of my staff here with me. I won't go through everybody, but leading this particular effort right now is Tawana Robinson. Many of you, if you attended the Alabama Independent Insurers Association conference a few months ago, I don't know, it seems like it was either 2 weeks ago or 2 years ago. I'm not sure when, but if you attended that, you met Tawana and know that she's great and is going to be helping you to investigate the possibilities of apprenticeship in the insurance sector. So today what we wanted to do is take a few minutes to talk about why do we need apprenticeships and why do we need additional pathways for people to gain skills and access the careers that are available in our state. So I'm going to give you some kind of very big picture labor market data that you might have seen before, but you might not. Sort of to set the stage for why do we need to do these activities at all. And then from there, we're going to start to talk specifically about what is a registered apprenticeship, how is it beneficial to employers, and then Tawana will take over with some details about strategies for implementation and how to get started, and some particular things that we can do to help you get started with an apprenticeship. So first of all, we want to say thank you to Bill Jacka and his team at the Independent Insurer Agents Association for being so welcoming to us. It was our first time to engage with you all when we went to your conference down in Gulf Shores. If anybody's on the call that didn't get to attend that, you missed a great time with a lot of really outstanding networking. I think Tawana managed to lose, I managed to lose my play money in the casino faster than anybody else. Tawana might have made some play money in the casino. But it really was a pleasure to get to meet you all. And the reason that we do those things is to get to really understand and hear from the employers in given industry sector. What are the jobs? What are the things that you need filled? And start to try to get an idea of how we can be of assistance to you. We are not subject matter experts in the things that we build apprenticeships for. We don't try to be a subject matter expert in manufacturing and building cars and building airplanes and building jets and rockets, and we don't try to do that. We are subject matter experts in how to build a training program, and we rely on you as the employers or the representatives of employers. you need to be the subject matter expert telling us what a person has to be able to do. So we'll sort of talk through that a little bit, but that's the big picture framework of what we're going to cover today. We do have a chat function available. If you have any questions as we go, please throw those questions into the chat. We might or might not cover them as we go. We got plenty of time. We most likely won't take the full hour, but when we get to the end, you can put questions in the chat or unmute yourself and ask anything you like. Anything's fair game, except how to get the cream and the Twinkie, because I don't know. All right, so to start with, let's talk a little bit about the labor market data for the state of Alabama. Now, this data is getting a little bit long in the tooth, but honestly, it hasn't changed enough to make it worth updating the slide. In November of 23, our seasonally adjusted unemployment rate in Alabama was 2.4%. I think the most recent unemployment rate for Alabama is still at about 2.5%. We have historically low unemployment in Alabama. Not only do we have historically low unemployment in our state, we are also leading in low unemployment for the Southeast, and at some points we have the lowest in the nation. That's good news. I mean, that's great. What that means is that everybody who's looking for work has work, and that's exactly what we want. We want to make sure that opportunities are available for people when they are seeking employment. The flip side of that coin, though, at 2.4% unemployment, means that it's a very tight labor market. And those of you who are employers on this call, you don't need me to tell you that. You know that when you need to hire somebody, it can be difficult to find the people that you want and the people that have the skills that you need. And that's not because there are a lack of people in Alabama. That's because we have this other number that is sort of the flip side of the low unemployment rate. We call the labor market participation rate. The labor market participation rate is the percentage of people from age 16 to 64 who are either working or seeking employment. So it's pretty much the opposite of the unemployment rate. So this is the percentage of people who are working or seeking employment. Alabama has one of the worst labor market participation rates in the country. We are at about 57.4%. And I'm an Auburn guy, but even my Auburn math will tell me that that means that 43% of people from age 16 to 64 in Alabama are not working and not seeking employment. Now, if you listen to your grumpy uncle, they will sit there and tell you that the reason these people aren't working is because they're lazy and they're good for nothing and blah, 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 and they're living off of the government dime. Problem with that is most Alabamians don't fit those descriptors. Of course, there are some that do, but most Alabamians don't fit those descriptors. And if they're living off the government dime and they're taking unemployment or some other kind of aid, they're already counted in that other number. So these are people who are just really disconnected from the workforce, 43% from age 16 to 64. So what that means is you've got a lot of people out there who are they're on the bench. They're just sitting on the sideline. They're not engaged. Many of them are in what we call the shadow economy. They're taking cash jobs. They're doing things that are sort of off book or very minimal just to survive. So the question then is, well, where are they and why are they not taking these jobs that are available? Some of you as employers, you post a job and you can remember a time in the early 2000s, you'd post a job and you'd have 100 applications come in and you just had one job. Well, now it's the flip of that. I've got to post a job 100 times to get 10 good applicants to come in the door. So when we ask the people who are not in the labor market, why are you not participating? And I say when we ask, we do this through surveys. The governor's office is partnered with an organization called Signal, and at least once a quarter, they're surveying and asking people who are not in the labor market, well, why are you not participating? We get the top three answers. After COVID, the top three answers have been pretty much the same in maybe different order every time. Number one is I can't afford the child care. So there's a lack of available child care. That is a much bigger barrier than people realize. Those of you who have had children in daycare and child care facilities, you know exactly how expensive it is. There's also not just the cost of it, there's a lack of capacity. There just aren't as many child care facilities as there used to be. It's hard to find child care. So a lack of affordable child care is one of the top three answers. The other one is transportation. We realize that we live in a pretty rural state on average, And outside of a few major metropolitan areas, we don't really have public transportation systems that can reliably get people to and from work. If you live in Greene County or Russell County or Baldwin County, there's not much that can get you outside from outside of town into town to go to work. That lack of reliable and available transportation is another huge barrier, because if you draw a circle around where you live and that circle is only as big as you can travel to get to, that's what you're limited to as far as opportunities for work. So lack of affordable childcare and lack of available transportation are two of the biggest barriers that people face. Those are not two barriers that my office is directly attacking. The Alabama Office of Apprenticeship is tangentially working on those things, and I'll talk about a little bit in other ways. But the third one is the one that we're attacking head on, and that is, I don't have the skills to do the jobs that are available. So there are people out there, if you said, okay, I want to hire somebody, and just imagine for a moment that you saw a sign across from your house and it said, brain surgeon jobs, apply here today, start tomorrow, $5,000 an hour. Well, I would love to make $5,000 an hour, and I might even enjoy being a brain surgeon, but I don't have the skills to go apply for that job to become a brain surgeon. And it doesn't matter if you change that sign and it says $10,000 an hour. No matter what you offer pay-wise, if I don't have the skills to do it and I don't have a way to gain those skills, then I can't take that job that's available. And that's where many of our citizens in Alabama find themselves. They're good paying jobs that they might be very interested in doing, but they are blocked by their current situation and their current life circumstances from accessing the skills to be able to go take the jobs that are available. In comes the Alabama Office of Apprenticeship. The other component of this is we have, besides just a large population of disconnected people from 16 to 64, we also have the largest population of disconnected youth. Now, this data lags by several years because it's census data, but again, it hasn't changed very much. 18.4% of 18 to 24-year-olds in Alabama are in that disconnected group. So they're not in education and they are not in work or seeking employment. It's the highest rate in the nation based on what the Dallas branch of the Federal Reserve assessed for us. Same reasons apply. Maybe not so much on the child care with this younger group, but when you start getting into the 23s, 24s, that definitely is a barrier for them. But it really is a lack of available options to go gain the skills to do the jobs that are out there. So when we look at registered apprenticeship programs, what we find is the data shows people from 16 to 24 are the largest participants in registered apprenticeship programs. So I want to highlight here, it starts at 16. The reason it starts at 16 is because you can be a registered apprentice as early as 16 years old, even if you're still in high school. That's the federal law, and that's what the state has adopted. You can participate as young as 16 years old, which might help later on when you're considering who you can hire for your talent pools. So we know that apprenticeship, just by the evidence of the numbers of people who are participating right now, apprenticeship is on target for the people who need it the most. Our disconnected populations, particularly our 16 to 24 young adult population. So our little motto, or one of our sayings that we have here in the Office of Apprenticeship, is you can't pay your way out of a skills gap. You have to train your way out of a skills gap. So let's break that down for a minute. I mentioned if you wanted to be a brain surgeon and I was offering you $5,000 an hour, it wouldn't matter because you don't have the skills to be a brain surgeon. I don't know, maybe somebody on this call does have the skills to be a brain surgeon. But without those skills, you can't take that job no matter what the pay is. So our traditional model of supply and demand within the overall economy has been, well, when the supply is low, supply of workers in this case and qualified workers is low, what do? Well, we raise the price. The demand goes up and the price goes up, and then that pulls more of that thing into the market. It doesn't really work in this scenario because no matter what you're paying, I still can't join if I don't have the skills. So the second part of that statement, we have to train our way out of a skills gap. That really addresses what we're pointing at here. If you want more people to get off of the sidelines and you want more people to get involved in the process of filling these open jobs and helping you run your businesses and being able to be successful on their own and be self-sufficient, you've got to provide vehicles for training that they can actually access. So that's where a registered apprenticeship comes in. So the 5 components of every registered apprenticeship program, it starts with employer involvement. Employer involvement in Alabama looks like we have a policy, in fact, that says we won't begin to design one of these apprenticeship training programs until there's an Alabama employer at the table who says, I need people who can do this thing. Now, why is that so critically important? You've seen all of the information on the news about, all of the student debt crisis that we're facing. You may even know some students who are in colleges or universities, and they're taking out tons of loans and getting degrees in things that nobody's going to hire them for. You can go and get a loan for $200,000 to get a degree in ancient Mesopotamian sports cultures, and all you're going to come out with on the other end is a piece of paper and a gigantic debt. So by requiring employer involvement and employer engagement in the front of this, we are ensuring that when we design this program, there's a place that that person can go and really get a job, and that the program is designed in a way that meets the employer's needs. We are an employer-driven organization. Now, yes, we do serve dual customers. We serve the apprentices who need the training and need the opportunity, but we also serve the employer. Without the employer to create the place for the apprentice to go, there is no apprenticeship. So the second component is what we call structured on-the-job learning. Now, on-the-job learning is exactly what it sounds like. It's the things that you're going to apply. It's the things that you're going to do in the field, whether that's in your office or whether that's on a construction site. Doesn't matter. The on-the-job learning is what you have to be able to do this job. The third component is a related instruction, sometimes classwork, sometimes web trainings. It doesn't matter where it comes from, but that related instruction is also called the technical skills instruction or related technical instruction. That's the content knowledge that you have to know to be able to do the things on the job. The fourth component of every registered apprenticeship program is rewards for skills gains. And this is just a fancy way of saying that as a person becomes more skilled, they earn more money. Now, this will come back in a minute and be one of the key components to driving the utilization of registered apprenticeship. But that just makes sense. If you hire a person that comes into your facility, comes into your office, they don't know anything about anything on day one, you're going to pay them an entry-level wage. But as they gain skills, they become more and more valuable to you. And building that rewards for skills gains into the training outline is critically important and one of the secrets of success for apprenticeship. It gives people clear demarcations. Hey, if I learn this and I'm capable of doing that, I'm more valuable to my employer in this way, and now I'm going to get a raise. So that in itself motivates people to move through and progress through the training program. It also serves, and no pun intended, but also serves as an insurance for the employer. If I hire somebody into the job, just because they've been here for 2 years does not automatically mean they're more valuable to me. So an employer, by using this system, is never going to be required and never going to pay an apprentice more just because they've showed up a lot of days. You're going to pay people more as they become more valuable to you on the job. Now, you may not, but I know several people, a lot of instances, I'll refrain from naming, people who have had jobs for a long time, but they aren't particularly good at them, but they just sit there and hold that position. That's not what an apprenticeship is about. An apprenticeship is about going from entry-level talent and skill to journeyman or journey worker level talent and skill, being a master of that particular trade that you're being trained in. And then the last component is a national occupational credential. So this credential is called a journey worker certificate. It's issued by my office. It is portable and recognized in all 50 states and territories. In an occupation like insurance, we have to be careful to draw a distinction between the federal certification that you'll gain through our office and the license that you might have to have from a state to operate in that state. So an insurer's license or an electrician's license or whatever. So this national occupation credential gives me a good point to talk about how is our office established. Well, knowing all of this that we know about our labor force and knowing what a registered apprenticeship is, Governor Ivey and her team in 2019 took a look at registered apprenticeship, and really we're looking at all of the total options on the table for helping our workforce. This is pre-pandemic, but it was the same problems that we're having right now, a lack of available skilled workers to do the jobs that are open. And Alabama just wasn't using apprenticeship. Prior to 2019, we had been operated under the U.S. Department of Labor. The U.S. Department of Labor has the option to run apprenticeships all over the country. And there's an alternative called a state apprenticeship agency. Governor Ivey wanted to create a state apprenticeship agency, that's us, that brings home the ownership and the responsibility of managing apprenticeship in the state to promote and expand and provide customer service to our employers. Just being perfectly frank, the biggest problem with apprenticeship in the state before that was there was one person from the U.S. Department of Labor, from the feds, that was responsible for promoting and expanding. And even if that person had been good at their job, read into that what you will, even if that person had been good at their job, there's no way one person could provide good customer service and technical assistance and support to employers to build out apprenticeship programs. So in August of 2019, Governor Ivey and the legislature established the Alabama Office of Apprenticeship, and we submitted a request to the U.S. Department of Labor, an application. In March of 2020, we were recognized as a state apprenticeship agency. So what that does is endows our office with all of the authority of the Fed to oversee registered apprenticeship in Alabama. What that means for our Alabama employers is we are moving from the McDonald's customer service experience to the Chick-fil-A customer service experience. I don't know any other way to put that more plainly. If you've been to both, you understand what I'm saying. So it also then created an opportunity for us to have in-state, on-the-ground regional experts who can help our employers. So also on this call, we've got Michael Bradiers, my guy from North Alabama. He's there in North Alabama, directly embedded, works with the local community colleges, the K-12s, knows the employer scene in that area, and can serve as that main hub, that main point of contact for expanding in a particular region of the state. We've also got Sophia Guan on here. Sophia is my project manager for Region 5 and 6, so she does that in the Montgomery and the Dothan regions, if you've ever looked at that map. Let's see who else is here. Meredith Smith is our assistant director. Meredith handles statewide programs. So if it's a government entity or if it's an association like the Insurers Association maybe, who wants to run a statewide apprenticeship program, Meredith handles all of those things. So point being, by having this state apprenticeship agency, we are able to now provide local on-the-ground customer service. We can come to you. We can come and help you build out your apprenticeship program the way that you need it to meet your in-demand occupation. So really, what is an apprenticeship? I kind of talked about those big five parts, but when you get right down to it, an apprenticeship is not complicated. An apprenticeship consists of really two main parts. The first is the on-the-job learning competencies. I mentioned these already. These are the things the person has to be able to do the job proficiently. So this is your active, we always say we write these competencies. We talk about competencies a lot. We write these in terms of the apprentice will be able to, observable action verb. So in your industry, it might be the apprentice will be able to engage customers and sell policies. I don't know, I'm just making something up. As I mentioned, I'm not an insurance expert. But it's the things that the person has to be able to do in the field or on the job or in the office to be good at their task. The first thing we're going to do, if you're interested in an apprenticeship, is sit down with you and your subject matter experts and say, well, what is the job? And what are these on-the-job learning components? What are the things a person has to be able to do and build out that list? The next part of that is the related instruction that I mentioned. That's the coursework. Now that can be preparation for licensing exams. It can be the insurance classes that are already available in the K-12 school system. I think maybe we've got somebody on here from Sylacauga. They're teaching these classes in their K-12 school system. It can be classes at the college or the university. We don't care where the instruction comes from. That's something we'll help you as an employer figure out. But the difference in this kind of a training model and a lot of other models is we start with the competencies, and we're only concerned about getting training that supports the person being able to do the things you said they had to be able to do on the job, right? So instead of just going and buying a cookie cutter off the shelf degree or training program or whatever that might or might not include the specifics of what you need as an employer, in this case, the related instruction is backwards mapped to the on-the-job learning competencies so that it supports what the person has to be able to do on the job. You put those two things together, you get your work process, training plan, Appendix A, whatever you want to call that document. That's the heart and soul of the registered apprenticeship program, is the on-the-job learning, the related technical instruction. Now, this stuff will be done under the supervision, the on-the-job supervision of a journey worker, easy term, mentor, right? So you're going to have somebody there in your facility who, in your office, they are the journey worker as designated by you. This person knows everything about how to do this job, and I'm going to put this apprentice under them. It's the model that has been around for thousands of years. This is how people learn. They go on the job with an experienced expert, and that person is the one that supervises their on-the-job learning and then oversees also their implementation of, okay, this is what you've learned, now let's go out in the field and apply it. The related technical instruction, as I've mentioned, can come from any place, school, K-12, in-house. Tawana will talk a little bit about in-house training opportunities at the end. So why would you want to do this thing? Well, an apprenticeship can help you recruit, train, and retain. Let's dive into that just for a minute. Well, first of all, when you're trying to recruit, I've already mentioned, this is not like it used to be where you'd post one job and get 100 applications. I think you would find, or at least 100 quality applications. You would find now that when you post a job, it's hard to find quality applicants. Part of that is because without promoting outside of your normal bubble, I just got to be honest with you, a lot of people don't even know when you post that job. And when they do see it, they don't know how to get the skills to do that job. So even if you attract a more diverse talent pool and you say, okay, well, we advertise on LinkedIn and Monster and Indeed, and the worst, y'all, I just got to tell you, the worst is, well, we always post it on our company website. Who's going to your company website to look for open jobs when they don't even know that you're hiring? They're not just checking your website every day to see if you're hiring. But let's say that you do advertise and you do get your word out there. The second part of that is I've got to have that path to that in-demand occupation so that I can, me, Josh, as a job seeker, can now come and work for you and learn to do the thing. So this gives you the opportunity to hire for fit, hire for attitude, hire for ethic, and then train the job skills. Most job skills can be learned on the job, but what can't be learned is that other stuff. And so you're able to now recruit not just the few people who already know how to do what you want them to do, but the people who are interested and eager and want to learn. And then the third point about recruiting is many of our registered apprenticeship programs also are tied to our colleges and universities, and sometimes through dual enrollment in the K-12 system, so that they earn college credit. Now, one of the things I learned down at y'all's conference as I talked to a bunch of employers, many of your jobs don't require college degrees at all. Some of them might require some specified industry training or a good bit of specified industry training and licensure and that kind of thing, but they don't necessarily require degrees. But I have to tell you, when you're trying to recruit, if you were saying, okay, I want to engage with the high schools, or I want to engage with the freshman class at the college or at the community college or university or whatever, if you start talking about the apprenticeship as an alternative path instead of degrees, mama will shut you down. We call it marketing to mama. Parents believe, because we've embedded it in them for at least 20 years, that the only path to a high quality career is a degree. University education and higher ed is the only way to do that. We recognize that, and we do also recognize that that is in some occupations true. So what we try to make sure and make clear, this is not some alternative path, non-credit bearing, that you'll never be able to get a degree or get a promotion. This is in conjunction with university or college credit if that's appropriate for the occupation. So that helps with the recruiting. The middle part is about training. All right, you find the person you want, you find this person who's a career transition, right? They were already working, but they were working at the Dollar General running the cash register. They've got good work ethic. They'll show up. They know how to deal with people. I mean, if you can deal with the people on the other side of a cash register at the Dollar General, you can deal with just about anybody. So they're the kind of people you want for fit, but they don't know how to do the thing. So the registered apprenticeship program will let you build out the customized training that you need so that they get those on-the-job learning activities. Now, one thing we hear sometimes from employers is, well, we have sort of an in-house training approach to this. You are subject matter experts in the insurance industry and the finance and the associated occupations that go with that. If you haven't been trained in how to design a training program, I have to tell you, a lot of the ones we see that are homegrown in-house are pretty scattershot. Having this this model put in place gives you a subject matter expert, me and my staff, who can help you design a clear training progression. All right, you do this, then you do that. It's all very clear, very well laid out. You're in charge of it. You can customize it to your heart's content, but it is much more clear and well documented and makes it easier for everybody to follow and understand. And then the third component is retention. We hear this from employers all the time. I hired somebody. I found somebody with the skills, first of all. I found somebody just walking around on the street that had the skills, and I hired them, or I stole them from my competitor. And I get them into this program, and then 9 months later, somebody else offers them a little bit more money, and they're gone. Well, a registered apprenticeship helps with retention, first of all, by developing employee loyalty. Think back to our cash register worker from the Dollar General. If you find that individual and you invest in that person and you treat them well and you bring them up into a career, employees will be loyal when they are treated in that way. Nationally, registered apprenticeship completers are still with the company that trained them 92% of the time, 2 years after they complete. A 2-year retention on a new employee who is now fully skilled is the kind of return on investment you need to be making. I understand, at least from some of the conversations with some of the smaller employers at y'all's conference, that, hey, I bring people in, I'll train them up, and then the big agencies come along and steal them, right? Somebody else with more money comes along and steals them. Is that going to happen? Yep. But that's going to happen whether you hire somebody off the street with skills or whether you bring in your own and train them up. The benefit to this is at least you got to train them for your way, keep them for a period of time, and in the meantime, you had a high-quality worker fresh out of the gate, and you might be able to hang on to them because you've invested in them, you've treated them well, you've provided the training. It's not a guarantee. They're not indentured servants. Everybody has free will. They can leave and go to another place if they want, but I'm telling you that the data shows that people who do apprenticeships do stay with the employers at a much higher rate than people you hire off the street already fully successfully certified. The progressive wages aspect of that paid for skills gains that we talked about, it does also help to reduce job hopping, because if I am at a company and I know, hey, this is the next thing I need to do so that I get my promotion, then I'm going to work and do those things before I get my next raise. It does hold down and helps to reduce job hopping, and it also creates that clear pathway for career development. If I was to sit down and talk to, or you were to sit down and talk to an average high school senior right now and try to convince them that jobs in the insurance sector are a good idea and maybe you should consider it, they don't have the awareness or the exposure to even really know what a job in insurance looks like. But by developing this clear training outline, you can show them not only what does that job look like, I mean, here are the competencies. This is the stuff you'd need to be doing, and this is the classes you'd have to take, and this is what it would look like on a day-to-day basis. But you also show them a very clear career pathway. Apprenticeships are not about today's job. Apprenticeships are about tomorrow's career, the whole thing all the way through. There's a trucking company in Alabama that has a slogan on the back that says, "We hire you to retire you." That's the idea with a registered apprenticeship program. This isn't like an internship or a cooperative education program where you bring them in, you get a little bit of work out of them, they graduate from whatever school they were in, and then they're gone. You're hiring and training full-time permanent employees that will build up your bench strength, build up your capacity within your agency, and allow you to now go out and bring in more business, bring in more opportunity for you and them. So employer benefits, recruit, train, retain. So that's sort of the big picture. That's the why, that's the what a registered apprenticeship is. I'm going to turn it over to Tawana to talk to you a little bit about, okay, you've piqued my interest. Maybe we want to investigate this. What do we do next? How would we start this? So Tawana, take it away.
Okay, so that is always the big question. How do we get started? What do we need to do? What are our next steps? So the first step in all of this is to simply you want to make sure that you connect with someone from our office. We have our project managers. As Josh mentioned, you will reach out to our office and we will connect you with your project manager so they can get you started. So one of the very first conversations that project manager is going to have with you is going to be step 2, which is going to be to determine what exactly are your workforce needs. Let us help you to determine, what those needs are and how they fit in terms of registered apprenticeship and how we can build out a plan that'll work for you to meet those needs. And part of that is going to be identifying, of course, what that occupation is for the apprenticeship program itself. Where are we going to start in terms of what occupation is your most pressing need? What's that low-hanging fruit? We know for sure we need this. This is where we're hurting. So we want to start with you there and begin to build out and decide what the structure of what your program will look like. And this is something that you don't have to do alone. Again, we are there with you.
Luana, you just went on mute there.
There we go. Sorry about that. Pick up where I think I left off. It was, I think I was discussing, talking about the specific occupations and, developing your program surrounding that low-hanging fruit. And part of that is going to be the next step in this, which is deciding what the structure of your program will look like. And we're there with you the entire time. This is not something that you do on your own. Our project managers are complete rock stars. We get in there with you. We sit down beside you and we say to ourselves, what is that low-hanging fruit? What do you need them to know to be able to do the job? What does that look like? What are the competencies that they need to know to be able to come in and hit the ground running and do this job effectively? And where will that training come from? Josh mentioned earlier about training in-house versus outside trainings. Some organizations have amazing internal training programs that will definitely meet the need and fit the bill for registered apprenticeship. And that is awesome and amazing. And we will help you to develop your program, customize it to fit that training. If you need outside training entities to come in and help you, whether they are, training from industry specific training, maybe with one of our community colleges, we will partner with you to sit down and decide what that training will look like, build out the structure and the process for that training, which leads us into, of course, that training plan that Josh was talking about earlier, that work process, building out that competency list, deciding what that related instruction will be, how those two connect, and establishing the standards for your program, right? Once we get all of that done, it's time to register your program and get you started. And at this point, we've selected and designated the main point of contact. Who's the person that's going to be running the program? That'll be the person that we work with the closest in terms of getting your program running and continuing to run your program. Because the key to all of this, remember, we're providing you that gold star customer experience. We don't leave you. We don't set this up where you walk away and say, have a good life. You're stuck with us. We're here with you the entire time, riding beside you, making sure that your program is running the way that it should, providing you that technical assistance when you need it. And we always encourage, thinking about the scale and scope of these programs, start small, maybe start with 1 or 2 the first time, get a feel for how the program works. Again, any technical assistance that you need, we're going to provide to you, and then you can grow the program, as you become more familiar with how it works and as you become more established in terms of seeing what the needs of your company are. Because remember, registered apprenticeships are living, breathing things. They grow, they shrink, they, depending on the needs of your organization, maybe the training changes because the technology changes. So we are ever evolving programs. So starting small really helps you to decide and establish how you want to grow that program and how you want to continue to expand and where it fits in your toolbox for your workforce development for your organization. So that is super key to be having a successful program, picking that point of contact, starting out small, connecting and communicating with us what your needs for your business are, and establishing where that low-hanging fruit is and starting with those competencies and skills so we can develop a program, customize it to fit the needs of your organization so that you can become more successful. All right. Another point I want to make today, we want to kind of go over with you. We have this little thing that Mike coined for us, which is called coupon hunting. Apprenticeships, of course, are an investment. As with anything else, you're making an investment in your business and your organization when you're investing in your people. They're your most valuable asset. So, and so workforce development is serious business. So we understand that there is a cost involved in terms of that investment. And we always want our employers to come on fully with full buy-in, understanding that that's what we're doing here. We're making an investment in the future of your organization. But there are funding options available to help, to help reduce those initial costs that come with investing in registered apprenticeship programs. And we work really hard to make sure that our employers are connected with those resources that are available. There are several that are out there. There's the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, which provides funding for training programs, including apprenticeship, that are aimed at developing a skilled workforce. You can bring in individuals with little to no experience, hire them as apprentices, and then get them skilled to where you need them to be for your organization. There's incumbent worker training programs, which are programs that are providing funding to help employers to upskill their current workforce. So this funding allows you to take that existing workforce that you have and enhance their skills, thereby improving your company's performance overall, because now you have a higher skilled employee. There's also existing industry training program grants that are offered in Alabama's community colleges. And these are programs that provide customized training to various industries throughout our state. So all three of these are just examples of some of the funding opportunities that can be rated and leveraged to help fund and offset the cost for your registered apprenticeship program. Our office also offers funding as well. We have incentives that we provide to assist with wage reimbursement, as well as related instruction, developing the related instruction of your program, that in-house training for those that are participating with in-house training programs. So there's a number of various funding opportunities available, but we do want to make you aware that we do our best to make sure that you are connected with those entities so that you can take advantage of those opportunities to leverage those while participating. And with all of that said, while we do understand that financial support can ease those initial costs, the true value from participating in registered apprenticeship comes from the commitment of developing a skilled employee, whose success will help drive the success of your company. So this investment is not just an investment in your business, but an investment in people and the program itself to help continue the success of your business. So all this is there to say you're making the investment. We want to help you with offsetting that cost, but we do want you to be fully invested and interested when you come on board with us. And we're going to do everything that we can to support you throughout this process.
Thank you, Tawana. And while you were covering that, I flipped back in my notebook to the notes that I had from when we were at the conference. And we're going to go into a question and answer period here if anybody's got any questions. But I had a couple that I had written down that we got asked there, so I'm going to go ahead and address these. One, how many people do I have to hire? Tawana, how many do I have to take if I want to do a registered apprenticeship program?
One. You can hire one.
One. So it's not a matter of if you're committing to this that you suddenly have to be able to hire 20 people. Our top line metric is the number of employers served. So we'll work just as hard for the tiniest agency in the state as we will for the biggest agency in the country. It doesn't matter to us. We are working to serve our employers. Tawana, how much does it cost for me as an employer to get the services of the Alabama Office of Apprenticeship?
Why, Josh, it costs you absolutely nothing.
All right. Well, that's a great answer. So I'm going to correct you on that, Tawana. It does cost you something. It costs you taxes. You've already paid for our services in your taxes, but there are no additional fees. So any technical assistance you get from our office, any support that we come out and give you, that's all done at no cost to you beyond the taxes you've already paid, right?
Oh, and time, Josh. Cost time.
And it does cost time. And that's a great point, Tawana. One of the things on that, the strategies for implementation, you've got to recognize that it said designate a point of contact, designate a person who can take the lead on this. You got to carve out some time on the front end to spend with us. Now we don't hand you blank paperwork to fill out. We're going to ask you plain English questions and take that and put it into the appropriate documents and all that, come back to you and say, this is what we understood you to say. Does this meet what you actually want? But we do have to be able to sit down with you, and we do have to be able to take that time. So we'll come to you and help get that done. One other question that came up that I had a note here was there are some jobs in insurance that are apparently straight commission, basically, that specifically in the sales aspect. I'll just tell you now, we can't build apprenticeships based on a commission-only job function. We have to be able to specify either a salary or a dollar per hour situation. Now, you can have commissions on top of that, so you pay, a flat X, and then that person can make additional commissions. What we have done, we have had a very small number of insurance agencies who have participated. And what they have done is, while the person is an apprentice, they're making a flat rate. When they complete their training, then they move over to the normal paid commission schedule. That's totally fine. But something that maybe is a little unique to this industry that we wanted to go ahead and point out. And then the other thing was, again, about cost. What is the cost? Well, what are we talking about? What am I going to invest? That's mostly dependent on the related instruction. If you decide, hey, I need this person to have a bachelor's degree, well, the cost of that related instruction is the obligation of the employer. If you decide they need a bachelor's degree, that's what you're going to invest. In most cases, though, that's not what you're looking for. So if you can do it in-house, if you can do it online, if you can send them for a few specific classes that you might need, that's really the cost. We don't calculate typically the wages into the cost of the apprenticeship, because this person should be doing productive work for you matched up to the amount that you're paying them. So, shouldn't be when people say, well, what is the cost? If I'm not paying the AOA, well, what is the cost? Usually the dollar amount that you're looking at is the biggest dependent factor is what kind of training are you sending them out to get? That's where the cost comes in. So with those bullets that I had noted covered, we're open. Oh, Tawana, you got something else?
Well, one of the questions that some people were asking me at the conference was, how long does this take, Josh? How long does it take to develop an apprenticeship program?
Well, that's a great question, Tawana. I'm glad you asked. Registered apprenticeship program is going to take at least 1 year of on-the-job training. That is the rule of thumb to determine if something is a high enough skill for it to be an apprenticeship program. Apprenticeships are not for entry level. In a manufacturing setting, we always say, apprenticeships are not for button pushers. In hospitality and tourism, apprenticeships are not for waiters and waitresses, because it doesn't take you a year of on-the-job training and coursework to learn how to do that. But they are for hotel and restaurant management, or they are for those middle and upper skill occupations. Virtually every occupation that I discussed with anybody at your association sounded like it was at least a middle and upper skill occupation. But the rule of thumb, the way to kind of test that is, does it take at least a year of on-the-job training and at least 144 hours of instruction, whether that's class time or webinars or labs or licensing tests, whatever. 1 year and 144 hours are the minimums. Okay. All right, so we've got some guests on here. Anybody, if you have questions, you can put them into the chat, or you're welcome to just unmute your microphone. We don't have a huge group today, so unmute your mic and throw out any other questions that we haven't covered. We're good. There's no way we're that good. We didn't answer every question that you might possibly have.
I don't have any at this time.
All right. Okay, well, if there aren't any questions, then you see our contact information here on the screen. That's my email address and cell phone, and you've got Tawana's email address and cell phone there. If you're in a different region of the state, oh, there we go. Let's see. Carol has a question. Funding resources were mentioned, but we're not particularly specific. Well, that's because it really depends on the program. The design of the program drives the funding availability. So let me give you an example. If you are hiring somebody who is currently unemployed, they have some type of barriers to employment, and they are being hired, they can go through the career centers, and they may qualify. The individual would have to qualify for WIOA services. So WIOA is Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. That's federal dollars. That can be used to offset the cost of the related instruction through what is essentially a scholarship type program. Or it could be used to help you offset the cost of the wages for that person. But that program is determined by the individual that you're hiring. Different example, the incentives that Tawana mentioned for our office, we have just straight what we call expansion incentives. So those are driven by the employer. So if you are a brand new employer and you build a registered apprenticeship program, one of the incentives that we have is a wage reimbursement. So we will offset the wages by 50%. We'll reimburse you for 50% of the wages for an apprentice for their first 480 hours of work. So that caps out at about $5,400, depending on how much you're paying them. So the dollar amount changes because we're reimbursing 50%, but $5,400, and you can do up to 10 apprentices. So over the course of time, if you did 10 apprentices, you could be reimbursed for as much as $54,000 of wages. Another in-house incentive that we have from the AOA, if you're doing training inside your facility, if you are doing the training yourself. So Tawana mentioned some agencies, you've got training resources available from whoever, and you want to bring them in, and you want to do that classroom instruction or some part of that yourself, we can give you up to $10,000 to help you stand up that in-house training. So we always put that coupon hunting that we were talking about, we always put that last. We put it at the end of the presentation because it really is dependent on the design of the program. And it depends on who you're recruiting in. If you're recruiting high school students, for example, which, please hear me when I say this is a perfect opportunity for youth apprenticeship. Your occupation has no safety concerns that people would be worried about. You can start them before they graduate from high school. They can work summers. They can work cooperative education part-time during the school year. You can hire youth into your occupation. We definitely want to reinforce that. But if you hire a youth and you say, well, you know what, I need them to take such and such class from the community colleges. Well, while they're in high school, those classes are no charge to you or the student because they're paid for through dual enrollment. So it's really hard to be super specific about the dollars and the incentives until we determine, well, how's your program look? Who's your target audience? Where are you getting your related instruction? That's when we can start to get down to the nuts and bolts of the dollars and cents. That is a good question, Carol, and it is somewhat vague on the front end until we design it. And hey, if we design it and you get to the end and you go, good grief, that's going to cost me way more than I thought, I can't afford it. Okay, then we'll try to help you find the coupons to offset it, but you're not obligated to anything just by investigating this option with us. We'll go through, have the discussions with you, help you figure out what your return on investment would be. All right, let's see what else we got. Something else in the chat. Oh, somebody singing Tawana's praises in the chat. She paid Karen to say that. But yes, Tawana is great, and the rest of the team are absolutely stellar. All right, any other questions or comments before we sign off? Okay, well, we appreciate those of you who were able to join today, sticking around with us. This meeting was recorded, so we will send this back over to Bill and the Insurance Association folks so that if they want to distribute it to other folks who weren't able to make it, then they certainly can. We hope that you will reach out and contact us, and we look forward to talking to you soon. Y'all have a great day.